Verona's game is attracting more and more attention from volleyball fans every season. And at this point, it's no longer just a nice, likable team. It's a team people follow, a team people wait to watch. And honestly, it's not even just about the wins. Some teams win but don't really pull you in. And then there are teams you simply want to keep watching. Verona right now is exactly that kind of team. Bright, charismatic players, a colorful attacking style, crazy speed, fighting for the very top spots. All of that makes Verona one of the most entertaining projects in Italy and maybe even in the whole world right now. When you watch their matches, there's always tension. Always that feeling that something spectacular or unusual might happen in the next rally. A club that not long ago was seen as just a solid mid-table team is now pushing to win every tournament they play in. And this isn't just talk anymore, it's facts. A historic win in the Italian Cup, and they did it without dropping a single set. That's a serious step forward. Last season it didn't work out, but this one, 0 sets lost. That's insane. In the Super Cup, Fabio Soli's squad made it all the way to the final. The only team that stopped them was Perugia, a team that feels like it was built specifically for that trophy. 4th win in a row, 7th in 9 years. And in the regular season, Verona finished behind only Perugia, 2nd place after 22 matches. If you look at it purely by the numbers, that's an elite level. But something else really caught my attention. The team has one of the worst reception numbers in the league. Surprisingly, only Trentino is worse, and at the same time they have the most efficient offense. That almost sounds absurd. And of course, it's impossible to talk about this without Micah Christenson. He's the genius running this whole madness. He's the piece that turns chaos into a system. He's the conductor who turns Verona into a point-scoring machine. The American neutralizes bad passes. He turns ugly balls into candy. Where another setter would just throw up a high emergency ball to zone 4, Micah finds a solution. Something difficult for the opponent and easy for his hitter. And at the same time, he's not just distributing, he's applying pressure. He has the most serves on the team this season, which also means the most break runs. His serve has become more aggressive, riskier, and at the same time, he's excellent in defense, extending rallies, digging balls that look impossible. And when you've got monsters in attack like Verona does, any ball that stays in play becomes a chance for a breakpoint. And one more thing that often gets overlooked, his blocking. 27 blocks in the regular season, the same as Marco Vitelli, the best number on the team. For a setter, that's serious, so respect to the American for that. At first glance, it seems like everything is perfect. Medals, almost guaranteed. But the Super Cup made me think, and it's exactly about those little warning signs that I want to talk about. Darlan Souza, a player who right now brings nothing but positive emotions to the fans of the Italian club. And at the same time, we all understand, he's leaving. He'll leave the Italian club and head to Turkish Halkbank. But instead of already thinking about the future, he's squeezing the maximum out of his time here. From every match, every rally. And you might be surprised, but I'd actually compare him to Konstantin Abaev last season. How did I even compare an opposite and a setter? Pressure. Massive pressure. No room for mistakes. One slip and you're getting subbed out. And in those situations, players either break or they become stronger. At the start of the season, Darlan was often substituted, just like Abaev was when he showed even a little weakness. The opposite was replaced by Francesco Sani, even though Sani isn't really an opposite. Sometimes it was purely to strengthen the block. Apparently Fabio Soli felt the Brazilian wasn't dangerous enough at the net. And maybe that got under his skin, because in the Super Cup we saw a different Darlan. Tougher, more focused, more dangerous on the block. 5 block points in 2 matches, 0.62 per set. That's not random anymore. But the attacking numbers are just from another planet. 46 points, 72% efficiency. Just think about that, 72%. 42 serves, 10 aces, yes, 12 errors. But if it wasn't an ace, it was still trouble for the opponent. The only thing that could stop him was his own mistake. In the regular season, he's showing crazy numbers too. As I mentioned earlier, Micah Christenson has the most serves. 287 attempts, Darlan has 286 and Noumory Keita slightly less with 284. But the Brazilian has the most aces, 42, which is 0.62 aces per set, and on top of that he's accumulated 100 service errors. Obviously, that's a lot of mistakes, but again, I'll repeat. As the season goes on, he keeps improving in this element while gradually reducing the number of errors, so right now his form looks absolutely monstrous. And at the same time, in the final he puts up 77% attacking efficiency, scores 28 points in 4 sets, fires 6 aces, adds some block points, and his team still loses. Which means something clearly went wrong somewhere. And that's exactly about some of those difficulties I want to talk about now. And this is where it gets really interesting. And we should probably start with Rok Mozic, because his story isn't just about one player, it's about a transformation of roles inside the team. By the way, I should mention that I've already made breakdowns about Keita and Darlan, but I haven't really covered the Slovenian yet. If you want a biography and analysis of Mojic, write it in the comments. If we go back a few seasons, there was a period when Mojic became the top scorer of the Superlega. Back then, Verona depended on him a lot. He was getting a huge volume of sets. He was closing out sets. In tough moments the ball went to him, and he delivered. Yes, the team didn't go far in the playoff bracket, but Mojic himself looked like a player who was about to reach the next level. He was the emotional leader and the main offensive reference. Everything made sense, the team was built around him. And then the turning season came. Noumory Keita and Maxim Sapochkov arrived in Verona at the same time. Two physically powerful, explosive, dominant attackers, and the offense instantly stopped revolving around just one guy. This wasn't about conflict, it was about redistribution of roles. When you spend several years living as the first option, a certain mindset forms inside you. You get used to the idea that the key workload runs through you. And suddenly, that changes. That season Mojic at first looked just as confident, he stayed emotional, aggressive, energizing his teammates. But as Keita and Sapochkov started taking a bigger share of the offense, small but noticeable things started appearing. More risk on serve, more complicated decisions in attack, stronger reactions to his own mistakes. Sometimes it felt like he was living too deeply inside every error, and that affected the next attack, and then his overall confidence. It didn't look like a technical decline. It looked like adapting to a new role. Interestingly, in the following season, when Sapochkov left the club and the workload was redistributed again, Mojic looked much calmer, more rational, more mature. He stopped chasing highlights. He played efficiently. He became a reliable second option next to Keita. And it seemed like that stage was behind him. But in this season's Supercup, I felt a slight sense of déjà vu. When there's Darlan next to you in peak form and Keita is still a player capable of dominating, the question appears inside again. Where is my place? He starts taking on difficult plays again. Watching the explosive attacks from the Brazilian and the Malian, he also tries to produce highlight moments instead of just playing the most efficient volleyball, which led to frequent blocks against him. In the final stage of the Super Cup, his stats, 5 points in 2 matches, are obviously not his level. Subbed out in the semi-final, then starting the final from the bench. For a captain, that's tough. And I think this isn't about his class and not about his form either, it's about the role changing again. Being the only leader is one kind of psychology. Being part of a trio where each player can be the first option is a completely different one. And that transition still doesn't seem fully stable yet. At the same time, it's important to remember he's only 24. He's not a veteran stuck in old habits. He's still developing as a player and as a leader. And maybe right now he's going through the hardest stage. Not technical, but internal, emotional. The key isn't learning to hit harder. The key is learning to stay flexible within your role. And unfortunately, signs of a similar story are appearing with Noumory Keita. After last season, expectations around him grew automatically. He became the Italian Cup record holder for points scored. He was that player who could single-handedly flip sets and matches. And when you play a tournament like that, people start treating you differently. Opponents prepare specifically for you. They build their block and defense schemes around stopping you. In the Super Cup, his numbers overall are solid. 28 points with 58% efficiency, 3 aces. That's not a failure. That's a good level. For many other volleyball players, it would be incredible, but if you watch the matches live, especially the final, the feeling was a little different. The issue isn't that he didn't put up crazy stats. The issue is that emotionally he looked less free. His trademark celebrations didn't disappear. The arm swing, the eagle flight, the bursts of energy, all of that is still there. But between those moments, there was more internal tension. When something didn't work, he stayed in that moment a little longer than usual. Looked at the floor a bit longer, was slightly slower to reset for the next rally and interact emotionally with teammates. And those are the little details that never show up in statistics. Serving was another story. Very often this season he served right after Darlan, and that creates extra pressure. If there was a phenomenal ace run, he naturally wanted to respond with something similar. Inside, there's an automatic desire not to fall behind. Or the opposite. When Darlan missed, Keita took extra responsibility, trying to compensate, trying to respond immediately, and those emotional swings only added more pressure. Of course, Noumory could probably shine just as much as an opposite, where there's no pressure on reception. When you're not the best passer, more serves come your way, and if reception starts to break down, that begins to weigh on you. And right now the Malian outside hitter isn't handling that part perfectly yet, but I really hope he overcomes it. At the same time, his attacking efficiency still remains high. And it's important to understand, he's in the middle of a transition process. He's only 24, and if injuries stay away, huge heights are still ahead of him. It seems like he's consciously trying to speed up, adjusting to Micah Christenson's tempo, playing not only with physical power but also with speed. And that takes time. When you're used to winning with height and strength, switching to a faster rhythm can mess with your timing. In some moments that was really noticeable. But that's part of growth. Something similar happened with Alex Nick Olof, who became more versatile and more dangerous, which is exactly what makes him one of the best attackers in the world right now. And Noumory most likely wants to evolve too, becoming an even bigger offensive threat. I don't see a level problem here, I see a development phase. He's 24. And if injuries stay away, and we all know how important that is for players with his physical profile, his potential is still far from fully realized and a great future could be waiting for him. The question is different. Will he be able to keep his inner freedom in a situation where there are other players next to him who can also take attention and offensive volume? Because right now the main challenge for Keita isn't the block, the serve or the speed of the set. It's the ability to remain himself when he isn't the only center of gravity. But right now, the main issue for Verona is psychology. 3 incredibly powerful attackers, 3 leaders, and each one wants to be the first option. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a conflict, but it's definitely an internal challenge. And it's going to be fascinating to watch how they deal with it. And it will also be really interesting to see where Fabio Soli's team ends up by the end of the season. The playoffs are starting right now. There's no room for mistakes. Yes, Verona unfortunately isn't playing in European competitions, but that might actually become their advantage. Less workload compared to Perugia, Trentino and Lube. And that could become a real weapon in the fight for the Scudetto. And now a question for you. Who do you think is the real leader here? Who is number 1 in Verona's attacking trio? Darlan, Keita or Mojic? And how far will Verona go in these playoffs? Write your opinion in the comments. Supporting the channel with your likes and subscriptions really helps the promotion. For you it's free, but for me it's huge support. And as always, this was Nick. Love what you do and you will succeed. See you soon. Bye.